for the dreams that you have on your heart, the joy set before you, you can endure the resolution of your own traumatic experiences that have felt like they've really held you back.
Your dreams will always require your healing, and you need to know that in order to move forward. If you feel stuck in your creativity, your art, your business, or your life, then it's essential to understand that you are being asked to heal what's in the way of you creating what you dream about. This podcast is all about the relationship between your emotional health and your creativity. I'm Courtney Lancaster, and this is the Heal Create Podcast.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Heal Create Podcast. I'm so happy you're here. I have something that I think will be a practical way for you to measure how and if you are moving forward in your own life. I was talking to somebody today, and we were just talking about how it can really feel confusing when you're in the middle of a trigger. Actually, a sign that you're in the middle of a trigger is that you'll have the thought that, what if this never changes? Or what if I went back to the beginning? And being in a trigger is actually just not a reliable way to measure if you are moving forward in your own life. But there are reliable ways to do that. So we will jump right in. I want to tell you guys 10 ways to know that you are healing and moving forward. And as I read this list, I want you to notice even the tiniest clues that any of these things might be happening. Because what will sometimes happen if shame is involved in our nervous system makeup, then we will hear this list through a lens of, look at how I'm not enough, or look at how this isn't happening to me. But we want to look for the 5% improvement, the 1% improvement maybe. And we want to compare this to you a year ago, you 5 years ago. We want to really look at your life right now, compare it to where you have been in the past, and see if there's even a 5% difference. And if there is, that's amazing, because 5% differences add up over time and they change absolutely everything. But I don't want you to hear this list and believe the thoughts that might come up that say that you are not moving forward or you're not doing enough. You can notice those thoughts. We don't need to get rid of them because they're just coming from a scared, ashamed place in you that really needs to be loved. And that might be work that you can do afterwards after you listen to this. But for the most part, I hope that this list is actually showing you that there are ways to kind of measure and gauge how you're doing in your life. So that would bring me actually to my very first bullet point. 10 signs that you are healing. The first sign is a new relationship with your triggers. So a new relationship with your triggers, it looks like a different story that comes up when you're triggered than might have a year or 2 years ago. Because the thing is, if you've had panic attacks or intrusive thoughts or like social anxiety or rage blackouts or whatever your particular trigger expression is, it could just be low-grade irritability and anxiety, then you're going to usually you will have a particular story attached to that. And that story has a really great function. It actually just keeps you in that trigger. But you will know that you're healing because you will at least be open to the idea that maybe this story isn't actually true, but just a sign that I am triggered. So if it's not true, what might be true instead? I was telling somebody that we had a couple of things happen recently, and we had gone to Disneyland that day, which is just incredibly overstimulating. It was a lot of fun, actually, and I have been in those environments and just been completely dissociated in the past, 10 years of my healing. But I didn't feel that way at all. I was present and it was really fun. It's just really overstimulating to be in that many people with that many lights and sounds coming at you and movement and all the things. And then when we were on our way home, we got some really hard news about a family member that was really, really a bummer to hear. I might even say a little bit disturbing. So I went to sleep that night and I woke up in the middle of the night and I noticed I had this absolutely horrific nightmare. And I woke up in the middle of the night, my heart is racing, and I felt like, that feeling in a nightmare where it's just absolute pure terror? I felt that feeling in my body. And I kind of chuckled because I was like, oh, of course, like, yes, this would remind my body of, just the overstimulation, all of the exhaustion from the day, really confusing my nervous system, confusing my body. Like, wait, are we okay? Combined with this really, really hard news that I was, didn't have time to process before I went to bed. So my body's just processing it for me in dreams and in this physical sensations. That experience a few years ago would have absolutely thrown me into days-long panic and anxiety. But because I knew what was happening and because I know whether or not it makes sense to me, every reaction that my body has makes perfect sense based on what I've been through. I just got up, I did some of my NeuroFit app. I don't actually get any sponsorship from NeuroFit, but I should, because the NeuroFit app is something I recommend to all of my clients. It actually gives you exercises to do based on where you're at to help you come back up into safety and regulation. So I did some of my NeuroFit exercises, probably, I don't even know, 10 minutes tops. I walked around, I shook it out, and I just let that feeling be there. I was like, you're okay. It's okay to feel this scared. I'm okay. I'm here. And I don't even think I really had any crazy stories try and come up. I just knew this is just my body's reaction to a couple different stimulants, triggers, and it's okay. That is, obviously because of the work that I've done and the support that I've gotten over the years. But I just was so grateful, even that night falling back asleep, that I didn't try and change it. I wasn't freaking out about why I was there. I have deeply accepted that it all just makes sense based on what my body's been through, whatever it is. Even if I'm like, why are you freaking out? There's always an explanation. There's always a reason. And my job is just to be compassionate. So a new relationship with your triggers, even if you just have the like, oh, maybe the story isn't true. That's huge. That is huge. Even if it feels partially true, 50%, but the other 50% of you is like, I'm just going to notice this story. I don't know. Like, I don't think I need to believe this. That's really huge. So that's one sign. The second sign is improved relationships. My husband and I we will have been married for 20 years. I'm sure that I will talk about that more as the months come up because our anniversary is July. And we've said, this is, I guess, a little bit funny, mostly tragic, but we've said before that we had 15 bad years. And the reason why we say that is because it wasn't like we were fighting all the time, or there wasn't anything like crazy necessarily on the surface going on, but we were just not connected at all. And we both had nervous systems and upbringings that prepared us to not feel safe with healthy partnership. So we did our best to shut down or sabotage or just be like really functional partners and roommates and co-parents in the same house. And it wasn't until I began to dream about what could be different that we both started to do the work. And the thing is that when you're doing your own emotional health work and your own trauma work, you can't help but see it in anyone else. I think it gives you a lot of, compassion. But the way that it looks in your friendships and relationships is that the ones that are important to you, you are able to look past the disagreement or even the dysfunction that's there and dream about what it could be. And you will notice the expression of the connection that you have with each other becomes deeper, more affectionate. All of the things that we dream about when we get into a deep relationship actually begin to feel true. And I will say that sometimes, just like your own emotional health journey, sometimes that looks like little tiny glimmers of connection with the other person where you're like, oh my gosh, clarity. I see this person clearly and I love them. And then it goes away and you're like, no, for sure I married the wrong person, or for sure this person isn't my friend, or no, I don't want to do this. But over time, those little glimmers of connection get bigger and bigger and bigger, just like with the emotional health journey, which over time, your ability to stay grounded and connected and anchored to safety and love and joy and connection gets bigger and bigger over time. There's more general laughter, support with each other. I think just deep compassion for each other. And it is possible. I don't know if anybody is listening and married and feels hopeless in their marriage. I just want you to know that we were a pretty extreme case of disconnection and have experienced more deep love and connection. I mean, vulnerable, scary, close, amazing connection, especially in the past year or two, than we ever have in our whole life. And it just feels like we're just beginning. The third sign is you default to curiosity. So curiosity and compassion are those, if you carry those within you and you choose those over and over and over again, curiosity and compassion will never let you down because they will allow you to soften around things that are really difficult, and they will allow you to see things in a new way that will create a better future for you. Curiosity is what helps you gain a deeper understanding of your emotions and your triggers and your behaviors. And then it gives you the chance to respond to them rather than react to them. That's a huge, huge thing that can only happen when we choose curiosity. So, and when I say choose curiosity, I will say that it is a choice, and it's a hard choice at first because your body might be screaming at you, or you might be in a really hard situation where it really does feel completely hopeless. And it is so hard not to believe that whatever your brain's interpreting as actually happening, if you've been through a lot of trauma, it will interpret it to be more catastrophic than the average person. It's really hard to choose curiosity. But what you'll notice is that curiosity will at least be an option. And that is a sign that you are healing. Defaulting more and more to curiosity, or at least noticing that the option for curiosity is there when you are in a trigger point. The fourth sign is soft boundaries. Okay, I could do a whole podcast episode on soft boundaries. Soft boundaries is the idea that the more you get to know yourself and the deeper values that you have, the more that you will be able to know what's okay with you and what's not. A good example of this would be like if you don't drink. If you don't drink and you go to someone's house and they say, hey, do you want a beer? You'd probably be like, oh, no, thanks, I don't drink. And they'll be like, okay. You wouldn't be like, the reason why I don't drink is because all of these things. And I can't believe that you're trying to put that on me. And, it's cool with me if you guys do. I just don't. Like, that's somebody who is not, that's somebody trying to put up a hard boundary. A soft boundary is just as strong as a hard boundary, but there's nothing to prove. There's nothing to protect. There's nothing to defend. It just is. Same with like if you have boundaries around gossip, or you have boundaries around timing, balance with your business and family. Like, it's not anything that you're stressed out about or trying to explain away to yourself or other people. It just is, because this is just who I am. And there's not an emotional charge or reaction to them. You trust yourself enough and it just becomes normalized. And if people have weird reactions around your boundaries, then you know that's about them. Like if I go somewhere and I'm like, oh, I don't drink, which I mean, I do drink occasionally, but personally, but if somebody doesn't drink and the person that offered the drink is like, I can't believe you. Why would you say you don't? That's so rude, or that's so weird. You wouldn't be like, oh, you're right. Maybe I should change my stance on drinking. You'd be like, that's weird that you're reacting that way. I'm definitely not changing that. Or maybe even a better example would be like if you're gluten intolerant and, somebody offers you bread and they're like, why wouldn't you eat bread? Oh my gosh, that's not even a real thing. Gluten intolerance? Like, geez. And then you have to explain yourself. No, it just is. If somebody has a problem with it, it's on them. It has nothing to do with you. Number 5, less judgment. Less judgment kind of goes back to improved relationships, but I think it's less judgment across the board with people that you're in relationship with and the people that you're not. I swear the longer that I go with my own journey, the more that I'm like, it's really hard to judge anything. And it puts me in kind of a pickle because there are a lot of hot topics out there to have an opinion on. But like I saw a very, very famous pastor doing a rant about Taylor Swift. And if you guys know me, I think Taylor Swift is great. I went to her concert last year, have her t-shirt. I think she's fine. I don't feel that she's involved in, some kind of master conspiracy, or that she's trying to hurt people, or that she's made a deal with the devil. I don't believe any of that stuff. I think she's an artist, but somebody sent me a video of a pastor that was like ranting about her. I mean, truly warning people of like the worst possible things with Taylor Swift and also other celebrities. And I'm just watching this and my first reaction was like, oh my gosh, like this type of like fear around celebrities, around this topic is just so unhelpful and gross. And I was just like about to click it off. And then I was just like, if I genuinely thought that somebody was trying to hurt my children with their art, like actively conspiring to hurt my child, and I, really genuinely believed that, I think I'd probably warn people too. And I so disagree with his take. There's a lot of connections between unresolved trauma and these conspiracy theories. But, I just had a lot of compassion. I just felt like, there's just a lot of, he's clearly very concerned, very, very concerned. And I think I just realized, like, I don't know. I used to have so many opinions about, back when I was a on fire evangelical 20 years ago in my 20s, man, did I have some serious opinions on the world. And then when we dismantled our evangelicalism and we kind of walked away from that. And when I came to understand, a trauma-informed perspective, then I had so many opinions in the other direction of like all the things that I was involved in and how they were so destructive. And I think there's probably truth on both sides. And, even coming back into church now, I notice the people that are the loudest are usually the ones where you can tell there's stuff going on there. And that's really hard to judge, because I know I don't want to judge myself in any past seasons of my life. And I know how hard I was always trying to keep myself safe and keep other people safe. And it just seems to be a sign of my healing, and a sign of healing in general is less judgment towards people in the world, which doesn't mean that you don't. I mean, courage is also a clue of your true adult self. And there will be times when you stand up for something, or you advocate for yourself, or you advocate for a cause. And that's different. That comes from a very grounded, courageous place. But for the most part, I've been very surprised to find how few hot takes I have, how few rants I have on culture or the people around me, because I think everybody's doing the best that they can. And that is something that is true. I truly had to feel safe enough in my nervous system to be able to step into that. More engagement in life. Man, oh man, I think 2018, especially the end of 2018 and 2019, I said no to everything. I was in bed so often. And we would try and have people over. And I just remember being riddled with anxiety and not able to connect or engage with them at all. And so a sign of healing I've noticed is, and remember, we're looking for 5% of the possibility that this is true for you, or that you've experienced this. Noticing that it's a little bit easier, or maybe a lot easier, to engage with people. That maybe your disassociation has gone down. Maybe you have an easier time having conversations. Even this whole like I hate small talk thing, I've noticed is a really interesting trauma response of social anxiety. So I remember reading a book on social anxiety, and how this introverted movement and this hatred of small talk is actually more comes from like an insecure place, where when you feel deeply grounded and secure, it's much easier to have all kinds of conversations with the cashier or the person at the party or whatever. And because you have, again, nothing to prove, nothing to protect, nothing to defend. And so you're able to engage in whatever level somebody else is, the more capacity that you have. This is different from overriding your capacity in order to connect with people because you don't want them to think that you're weird. This is like a genuine connection to to humanity, to our brothers and sisters all across the world, to the people that you meet every day, where you're just able to look them in the eye and you feel present doing so. If you notice that, and even a tiny glimmer, even a little bit as you move forward, that is improvement. Improved physical health. I have not talked about my own physical journey publicly. I don't think at all, actually. And it is something that I do want to talk about. But I will just say that I have experienced the journey of trying to figure out what was wrong with me, trying to look into every symptom. I had like 1,000 blood tests, working with nutritionists and holistic doctors and taking tests and doing quizzes online and following people that were telling me how to eat or how not to eat, how to fix my gut, how to all the autoimmune stuff that was going on. And there was always something in me that felt very adverse to labels. I really deeply believe that the body wants to heal. I mean, there's a ton of research around that as well. But there was a part of my journey where I was so sick all the time. The list of symptoms that I could tell you would probably surprise you, because I really white-knuckled it with very, very poor health for a long time, especially as some of my acute trauma began to come up. I mean, all of the normal things, insomnia, not normal, but common things for, post-traumatic responses was, insomnia, digestive issues, massive, massive migraines, muscle aches, like numbness. That's like scratching the surface. There were so many things. I went to so many doctors. And what I have noticed is that probably about 2 years ago, I just stopped. They put me on some kind of detox for something, which is a really common experience. And it made me so sick and so ill. And I just had enough. I felt like I was making myself sicker, trying to heal myself from being so sick. And I just decided to trust that the more emotionally regulated that I was, if I could continue to support myself with basic common sense nutrition, stop all of the restrictive dieting, all of the fear around. I mean, it was adding so much fear to my load. Just the things I could eat, the things I couldn't do, all the supplements to take. My body was not responding well to any of it, which now I know why, especially after brain retraining. I know why that is. I'm just adding more threats to my system. But I tell my husband all the time, can you believe that I used to be so sick? Remember when I used to have all of this stuff happen? Remember when I used to just couldn't get out of bed, or so many different symptoms constantly. And my husband and I was like, wow, that is crazy. It wasn't until I stopped looking for that, which I'm not even suggesting. It was just something I felt really strongly about. Did I notice such an improvement in my health, combined with my own trauma coaching? It helped me so much. So again, if you're in the thick of it with symptoms and you feel constantly sick, I would definitely study brain retraining. Brain retraining, it was incredibly powerful for me. DNRS with Annie Hopper is probably my favorite, DNRS 2.0. And all it is just literally focusing on goodness every day. And you bring peace and joy, and then subsequently strength to your body, which actually allows your body to operate optimally, which resolves so many of the mystery symptoms. And it feels like a risk, feels like a gamble. But man, I can tell you 100% it changed everything for me. And I've noticed so many of my clients who have had things resolve without even trying, just because they've brought regulation and compassion and self-compassion into their daily practice. Okay, this is a good one. Number 8, coping strategies that align with your values. Oh my gosh, my coping strategies. My number one coping strategy since I was a little kid, after the abuse that I experienced, was food. I was a morbidly obese teenager and early 20s, which is another thing that my husband and I are always like, wow, okay, do you remember that? Because we've been together since we were teenagers, actually. But I was incredibly overweight. Food was the thing that gave me comfort and safety and a break from the feelings that I had, in my house. And there are a lot of coping strategies that do their job of numbing the pain that might feel just way too overwhelming in the moment, and giving your brain a break from what you might be feeling and thinking. but that don't align with your values. So the thing about coping strategies is that we do still need them in our healing journey. It's not like you get to a point where you just never need, to comfort yourself, because that's what coping is. We can use coping as a way to comfort ourselves. But there are certain things that we learn, that we pick up. It's the ones that make us, so frustrated with ourselves, that don't actually align with who we are. Pornography is a good one. There are obviously really extreme ones, drugs and cutting and, alcoholism. But even just like gossip, everybody complains about scrolling. And I have thoughts on that. It can definitely be unhealthy. Sitting for hours and hours, numbing out in front of Netflix can be unhealthy. But if we took the shame off of them and we just said, okay, I do need coping strategies, period. I need them. And if we were able to recognize, like, I do need coping strategies, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Then how could we find coping strategies that still help us take a breather when we need to, take a break, but don't betray the person that we're becoming or the values that we have? So food being my biggest coping strategy, I began to notice, oh man, when I came into my authentic self more and more and more, I noticed how deeply I wanted to be in a healthy, strong body where I could release this extra weight that I've needed for so long. And I could step deeper into my own femininity. And I know that there's a lot of, intuitive eating and like anti-diet culture. That's absolutely a thing. For me though, I don't feel any shame about, or have not felt shame in a long time about, wanting to release weight. It was weight that I should not have had to put on in the first place. And I think it's a very authentic part of me. There was some discomfort in not going to food anymore as coping because it didn't align with my values. And I love food. I enjoy food. I just had the best bruschetta ever. But in a way that I can tell, and I know myself well enough to know when there's emotional eating involved and when there's nourishing, like an enjoyable, true self experience with food. And that was something I had to shift. And that's when we want to think about, what are coping strategies that help me? So coping strategies that align with my values now look like walking. Walking is just an absolute lifesaver. Walking, stretching, listening to calming music, self-care. I love like a great gua sha routine and all the self-care practices. Getting a hug from my husband. If I'm really struggling, I will go for a hike near the ocean by our house and I'll listen to a podcast. Or I have a file, I've talked about this before. I have a file on my Instagram account called Regulating, and it's basically just funny or heartwarming videos. I'll do that. I will journal. All of these things that still help me to either process emotion or take a break from emotion. Both of those are needed. You need both of those. Sometimes I need to take a break from my process and watch something funny. And there are so many things that you can do that will fill the purpose of taking a break or helping you process, that are actually in alignment with who you are. So pay attention to that, or see if you have been open to the idea of never, ever, ever shaming the coping strategies that you picked up in survival. Ever. I could not have moved forward at all in any health journey if I had judged myself for the way that I ate, the way that I coped with food, period. It is from such a deep sense of self-compassion and self-love that I even am able to continue to move forward towards more health and embracing beauty and fashion and all the things that I love about being in my body. If I judge myself for falling off the wagon or like not, or going back to old coping strategies, like that is not helpful at all. And there's just no space for that. So if that is anything that you've noticed, like, gosh, I'm willing to let go of the judgment around my unhelpful coping strategies. I'm even willing to look at new coping strategies. That's a sign that you're actually moving forward. Number 9, past events feel more neutral. This is a really big one for those of us that have had acute trauma, especially as a little kid. So what happens is, for most of us, It was, maybe a handful of events, maybe one acute event. And it's the kind of event that you never want to look at again. You know it's there, but you don't want to look at it. And maybe you didn't have a safe house to talk about it in. So it's kind of like a iceberg. Like you can see the tip of the iceberg in your psyche. You know that something happened that was really hard, but there's a whole bunch that you haven't processed about it. Well, first of all, I want you to know that is really, really healable. It's so amazing how I remember somebody saying, the treasure you seek is in the cave you fear, meaning that work of actually turning towards the hard thing that you've experienced in your past is so, so, so profoundly terrifying. If it wasn't, our body wouldn't be putting up such a fight to do this work. It wouldn't be giving us resistance. It wouldn't be giving us shutdown. It wouldn't be providing for us high anxiety to run away from it if it wasn't so scary. But I will say, it's amazing to me on this side that after the discomfort of facing it, it was never as scary as I thought it was going to be. It blows my mind that I can look back and be like, yeah, this thing happened. It almost makes me like emotional now to say it, that the thing that I felt was the scariest thing I never wanted to look at, on this side of it, I can know that it happened with so much neutrality and compassion for myself. And I know it will never happen again. And I have so much compassion on myself for having navigated through that. And that's what's available to you as well. Past events feel more neutral, even slightly more neutral. And the way that works is that at first, you've probably, if you are truly going on a journey to heal the big, scary thing, let's say, what it will feel like at first is, well, I'm going to die. I mean, you will sit with the therapist and your whole body will be like, wait a second, we've protected you from this for forever. You're saying you want to go towards the lion, towards the fire. And the truth is, it's not a lion, it's not a fire, it's just a memory. And memories can feel terrifying. I don't want to downplay that, but it will possibly feel worse before it feels better because your body's been trying to protect you from it for so long. And then if you can stay with it and you have great support to help you navigate through it, then you might have like spikes of triggers around it, but then you notice more and more space of just feeling like, wow, I really am okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm okay. And I'm okay even knowing that happened and it is in the past and I'm okay. More neutrality with past events, or even with past events in your marriage or your friendships. You're not just trying to pretend bad things never happened. You are working through them either in real time or you're processing past events with support. And it doesn't feel like you're constantly running from all the terrible things that have happened in your past anymore. It's an amazing thing to be able to show yourself signs of acceptance and come to terms with your past experience. That is very possible. And you might notice just tiny, tiny, tiny 5% proof that that's happening to you, but that's enough. That's enough, babe. The last the last sign of healing will not surprise anybody, but it is dreaming. Man, I didn't expect to be emotional reading through this list, but I just want to say that I tried a lot of things to heal. And I will say, of all the things that I tried in my own healing journey, with CBT to EMDR to SOZO, trauma therapy, group work, retreats, supplements, nutrition, lifestyle changes, books. Oh my God, the books that I read over and over and over, and all these podcasts and research and TED Talks and talking to people, and nothing ever healed me like my dreams, like the North Star of believing that maybe I was just as deserving as anyone else to have the things that lit them up come true. And that is the reason why I do what I do, because your dreams will always require your healing, but your healing makes space for you to dream even more, with even more authenticity, even bigger, in even more alignment to who you truly are. So if you're noticing dreams of any size, if you're noticing any moments of dreaming, in your life, I want you to know that that is your authentic self calling you forward into the future. It's calling you forward into, it's like the joy set before him. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross. For the dreams that you have on your heart, the joy set before you, you can endure the resolution of your own traumatic experiences that have felt like they've really held you back. So again, as you're listening to these, I hope that it will just plant seeds in your brain of things to look for, because the thing is, guys, when you're triggered, it is going to feel like you're at the beginning. It's going to feel like, did I learn anything? Am I going anywhere? Am I taking too long? Am I doing this wrong? That's like a classic. Did the thing that I thought happened even happen? All of those things are just a sign that your body is in fear. That's it. That is it. And the more curiosity and compassion you can bring to that, the more you'll notice your entire experience change. So I love you guys. Man, the connection that I'm beginning to build with the listeners of this podcast through DMs and through the downloads is just, it's such a gift to me. And I hope that you all feel so encouraged knowing that healing is possible from not only my story, but so many other people out there as well. So I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. Oh, check out the True Self Summer Workshop. It will be on May 28th. If you're listening to this when this episode comes out, then that's just a few days away. And we will make a recording of that available. So if you're not able to join us for that, you'll have the recording, and I think you'll be able to download that later to listen to it as well. Hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Heal Create podcast. If you have enjoyed this podcast at all, we would love if you would subscribe, rate it, send it to your friends. That would really help us get this message out, this message of empowering people towards emotionally sustainable creativity. Also, we have a PDF for you. So there's an exercise that I created called Inspiration Mirroring. And basically, it is for those that are looking to get acquainted with their authentic, truest self, based on the idea that whatever inspires you embodies your potential. And so if you want to get started on that journey today of really understanding who you are at your core, the person that you hope you are, then you can go to the link in my bio on Instagram or go to my website and download that PDF. I think that's all. Have a beautiful day.